Hello, my name's Nikola and I'm the owner and founder of Little Miss So-and-so. Welcome to my Midweek Makes here in my sewing studio. Today I'm going to be doing the unboxing of the January Fat Quarter box from our Little Miss So-and-so My Guilty Pleasure subscription service. The Fat Quarter box is sent out every month to our members, and I'm going to do the unboxing now and make up the project that's inside. So are we ready? We will start with the unboxing. Okay, let's get this opened. Right, we always wrap our Fat Quarter Club boxes up in our signature baby blue tissue paper. Okay, there we go. So this month's fabric, you can see on the card here, it reads that the fabrics chosen for you are from the Strawberry Tea collection by Dashwood Studio. And then it's got a list of all the notions that are included in the box. Always a little treat. Okay, so we'll start with the fabric. We've got 3 fat quarters. We've got this one, which is really lovely. It's quite a raspberry pink. And you've got all the little designs of birds and flowers. So we've got that one. This really cute hen. And she's got her feathers all decorated with the prints of all the flowers. So you'll see that theme come across all the fat quarters. But a really pretty, lovely mustard colour. And then we have got this one. I think this one might be my favourite. This one is a really pretty sort of teal blue. And again, you've got these flowers that have come from each of the fat quarters coming back into this print as well. But not only in the background, you've got the flowers on the roof of the house. So really super, super cute. Like I said, the collection's called Strawberry Tea. So okay, let's have a look and see what the project is. So we have got in here quite a lot of pieces. We've got some strapping. We've got a piece of interfacing, and then a piece of fusible fleece. Aha. And then we can see we've got some metal hardware here. We've got a strap slider, 2 rectangle bag, well, they're rectangular, I can't remember what they're called. You can tell it's Monday morning. Okay, and then we have got the magnetic clasp and the corresponding pieces that need to go on there. So quite a lot within that box, and we are making a crossbody bag. And we know that from the strapping and all the metal hardware that we've got within this box. So we've got full colour instructions, and then we've got a full size pattern. So we've got the bag flap, and just remembered D-rings. There we go. And then we've got the second piece of the pattern. So that one's printed to A3. Right. I'm going to go and get the pattern cut out, my fabrics cut out, and then we will meet back here and we'll start making the project. Okay, so we have got all the pieces cut out. I've got my main bag piece, so I've got 2 pieces cut out in my main fabric. So I've gone with the fabric with the houses on it. I've got 2 pieces cut out in the lining fabric, so I'm going to have a really fun lining and go for this pink fabric. And I've also got 2 pieces of fusible fleece cut out. So that's my main bag piece. I've got the side pieces, so I've got the same. We've got the 2 pieces of fusible fleece, the 2 pieces of lining, and the 2 outer pieces. And then I've got the flap. So this is the flap that's going to close the bag. And I've decided to go and use all 3 pieces of fabric. So I thought it'd be fun to have the chickens just making a bit of a feature on the front of the bag. So that is going to be that's the top of the flap. This is the underside of the flap. So you can see I haven't actually placed my pattern piece in a particular area. I just cut it out because you're not really going to see it because it's underneath the flap. But this one I cut out so that the chickens were central to that flap piece. So that's the bit that's going to be seen from outside of the bag. Okay, so we have got a piece of interfacing. We're going to start with the flap, and this interfacing has got to be attached to the back of the underside of the flap, so the piece that you're not going to see, and that is where you're going to have the magnetic clip. So this interfacing, you can see there's a shiny side, that's the glue. That's going to be stuck to the back of that piece of fabric, and you're going to use an iron just to attach that, and that glue, that shiny side, will then melt and stick to the back of the fabric. And then I'm going to put the markings of the magnetic clasp onto the flap. And then the stability and the structure of this bag really is down to the fusible fleece. So this fusible fleece is is going to be seen on all of the pieces. I'm going to attach the fusible fleece in the same way as the interfacing, but this time it's the rough side facing down. So the rough side facing the back of the pattern of the fabric piece. You might want to use a cotton pressing cloth just to protect your iron, just so if you are using a hot iron it doesn't melt any fusible fleece or any glue gets onto your iron. So if you just use a pressing cloth to attach that. So I'm going to go away and quickly attach those, and I'm going to come back to continue working on the first step of the bag. Okay, so we're going to first of all put the clasp to the underside of the flap. So I've got here the washer, and we're going to put this thinner side of the clasp on with the outy bit. We're going to save this bit for the main bag piece, so I'm just going to put this aside for now. So this is where the interfacing has been put. I'm going to just going to push a hole through this circle, and I'm going to mark on the back of the flap where that circle is. Okay, so that's where we want to position our magnetic, one half of the magnetic clasp. Okay, I'm just going to use the washer I'm going to pop the washer just on top of that hole so it's positioned in the right place, and I'm going to mark those two slits there, so I know that that is where I'm going to cut. Right, so you can either use your snips, but it might just be a bit easier to use a seam ripper just to open up. Oh, just be really careful like I just did, it just went a little bit too far. Just use your seam ripper to make the two small slits in the fabric. Then what you're going to do is, this is going to be the underside of the flap. Remember, the outside of the flap is the one where I've positioned my hens to be central. So the underside of the flap, I'm going to pop the prongs through those two slits that I've just made, and I'm going to put the washer on top and just fold in those two prongs, so that is then nice and secure. So you might just want to might actually fold that back. So if you haven't got a tool, just have to use your fingers to push those in place. There you go, it's better if I fold it back. There you go, either way, that is now nice and secure. So that's one half of the metal clip attached. So I've interfaced the backs of my outer fabrics. So I've put the fusible fleece on all of my outer fabrics. And I've also, underneath this piece of fusible fleece, there's a little piece of interfacing where the this half of the metallic clasp is going to go. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing as I did with the flap. I'm going to pop a hole through there. Okay, so I know that that is where the clasp needs to go, so I can pop my washer on top, make two little lines, and then make the little slits, being careful not to cut too deep. There we go. And now I can pop the arms of this through my little slits. Where's my hole gone? Oh, it's not gone all the way through. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So I've now pushed that through. I can get my washer, pop that on top. And as we found out when doing the flap, we need to just push these apart and not together. There we go, much easier. So that's my outer bag piece. I'm going to take this protective piece of plastic off. Now where's my... So once this is all sewn together, you can see that this flap, let's pretend that is all sewn together. You can see that that then attaches. Great, brilliant. Right, let's move on to the next step. The next step is just simply to sew these two pieces together. So I'm going to place them right sides together, and I'm going to use a 1 centimetre seam allowance and sew all the way down the sides, around the bottom, and then back up, leaving this top edge open so that we can turn. Once we have sewn that together, you can either trim the seam allowances with pinking shears, or if you haven't got pinking shears, we're just going to cut tiny little triangles into the curves, so that helps everything turn out nice and smooth. Okay, so you can see the curves that I've the notches that I've cut out of the curves. So that's just because I don't have any pinking shears here, and that helps it all turn out nice and smooth. So I'm going to turn this the right way out. Okay, and I've got my trusty chopstick. If you haven't got a point turner, I do actually have a lovely one at home, and I really need to bring it here in my sewing studio. Okay, but chopstick works just as well, if not better, I think. There we go. So we can see now, I'm just going to give this a press. That's the underside, but you can see the top side, we've got the chickens nicely, or the hens, nicely positioned in the centre of my flap. Okay, I'm going to go and give that a press, and then we just need to top stitch it close to the edge, and that will hold everything in place. So we're going to top stitch around the edge of the flap. So when top stitching, there's a couple of things to do. Firstly, I'm going to turn my stitch length up to 3, and also I've chosen a thread that's the same colour as my flap that I'm going to be top stitching. If you don't have one the same colour, you could either use a contrast, well, the other option is to use a contrast thread and make more of a feature of your top stitching. So that's usually sometimes a nice thing to do, but on this occasion I've got a thread the same colour. Now I'm going to position my needle just 2 or 3 millimetres away from the edge of the flap, and I'm just going to be running a straight stitch and then as you go around that corner, or that point just there, just if your needle's in the down position, you can just lift your presser foot and just pivot your fabric around, and then I'm back up that top edge. There you go. So that's my very neatly top stitched flap for the bag. Okay, so I have sewn the 2 side pieces from both the outer and the lining fabric together. So let me just put these together so you can see. So you're going to get both your outer pieces, your side pieces, sew them together at one of the short edges, open them out and press the seams open. So do that with both the outer, which is your interfaced piece, pressing that seam open, and your lining piece. I'm just going to put that aside for now. We're going to attach the side lining piece to a lining side, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to, you can see here I've cut on the selvage, which is a bit naughty, I shouldn't have really. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to use that seam as the central point. And we're going to be moving this around the edge of the bag so that we can attach one side to one part of the bag. So you're going to use plenty of pins to hold this in place. It can be a bit fiddly, so take your time. I'm just going to manoeuvre that around the corners, pop a pin in. It's best to pin perpendicular to the edge of the fabric so that when you're sewing, these pins can be whipped out quickly, and if you don't whip them out in time, the needle will just drop either side of one of those pins. There we go, that's one side done. Okay, just going to get round this corner using plenty of pins, and here we go. That's that corner done, and then we've got a nice straight edge which is lovely and easy to pin. There we go. Okay, so we're going to sew that in place using a 1 centimetre seam allowance, just being careful you're not going to pucker the corners as you go round. So just make sure, just spend some time using your fingers to make sure that they're laying nice and flat as you sew around the corners. So once we've attached one side of the side panel of the lining, we need to do the same for the other side. However, on this time, we just need to make sure that we leave a gap in one of the sides, so in one of the side seams, so that we can turn it the right way. So I'm going to start by attaching this here. So I'm just going to find that halfway point. I'm going to go down to there. Okay, so I'm going to start pinning this in place like I did with the other side, and then this time I'm just going to work our way around the corner. There we go. I'm going to leave the gap probably round about here. I'm going to double pin it just to remind me that this is where my gap is going to be, because I know that when I haven't done this before, I've sewn along totally forgetting that that is supposed to be left for turning. There we go. So we're going to pin all the way around the edge of the bag now and sew in place like we did with this side. Okay, so I've sewn the side into my lining piece, so that's all the way around there. I've got a gap just here ready for turning through, so I'm going to do exactly the same with the outer piece, but on this occasion we don't need to leave a gap, so I'm going to attach in exactly the same way and sew in place. And once I've done that, I'll be back here to move on to the next step. Okay, so we're going to construct the actual body of the bag now. First of all, we're going to have 2 pieces of the strapping cut to 8 centimetres, and you're going to pop a piece of the strapping through one of the D-rings. This then goes inside the outer bag piece and gets aligned up to the side of the bag. So raw edges together. As you can see, I've done the same with the second one there. So they are now in place. I've got the clasp at the top here. So the next thing I need to do is get the flap with the outer side facing the back of the bag. So the front of the bag is the side with the clasp. I'm going to pop this inside so that the back of the bag is laying down, and I'm going to align the raw edges and just pop a couple of clips in place. So that's the front of the bag. It's aligned to the back bag piece with the clasp facing up. Right, we're going to turn the lining piece right sides out. So that is turned the right way out, and we're going to pop it inside the bag. Now, the reason why we turn it the right side out is because we always sew the fabrics right sides together, and we're going to be sewing around the top. So we want the lining fabric to be facing out so that it's right sides against the outer bag. Okay, we just need to align all the raw edges. So I'm just going to go around these seams here. We'll start with the side. I'm just going to readjust the clip. So I'm still holding everything together, and I'm sandwiching those 8 centimetre straps that are within the D-rings in between the outer bag and the lining bag. There we go. So there we go. I'm just going to reclip all of that. So we have clipped all of those layers together. Making sure all those raw edges are nice and neatly aligned. And then I'm just going to check that I've got everything in place. So we've got the bag flap sandwiched between the outer back of the bag and the lining back of the bag. I'm not happy with how that's aligned, so I'm just going to make sure those raw edges are flush. That's better. That's better. It was poking out a little bit. Okay. And then I've got my side straps, the 8 centimetre pieces, aligned on the sides. And that looks about right. So I'm going to sew all the way around the top of the bag. So just secure that in place with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, that whole circumference. And then I'll come back here and we'll turn the bag through the right way. Okay, so I've sewn the entire circumference around the top. We're going to find the hole in the lining. So we remember we left that side seam, we had a little hole in the side seam, and we're going to turn everything through this hole. So the best thing to do is pop your hand in the hole and then just pinch the bottom of the bag, because we want to turn that bag through the hole in the lining. The technical term for this is called bagging out. So if you ever hear anyone say about bagging out, it comes from this, from when you're turning a bag that you've made through the lining, through the hole that left in the side of the lining. So bit, there we go. So once it's all come through, you can start to see your bag taking shape. So I'm just going to put my hand back in the lining. Oh, I can just about, if you can't get your hand through it, this is where you need your pointy thing. So I'm using a chopstick. There we go. It's a lot easier than fitting my hand through a little tiny hole. There we go. So we're going to push all those corners out. We can give it all a good press in a minute, but for now let's just have a look at how this has taken shape. So we've got the lining. In a moment we're going to sew that lining closed, but for now let's just pop it in so we can see how that's all worked. Okay, and then that will all get pushed inside of there, and then we've got our lovely little flap which closes just so. Very cute. Right, so going back to that, we just need to sew up your hole. You can either do this on the machine or by hand. I'm probably just going to quickly run it closed on the machine. Give everything a good press, and then we're going to push the lining in, press around the top of the bag, and then we're going to top stitch all the way around the outside just to hold that all in place nice and neatly. So once you've top stitched all the way around, hold that in place, the final bit is to attach the strap. So you need your metal adjuster. First of all, we're going to pop one end of the strap through and over that central bar. It's gone a bit fiddly. There we go. Okay, so that's just wound through there, and I'm just going to pull that strap under, and I'm just going to secure that in place on the sewing machine by sewing backwards and forwards. I'm going to do that just here so I can continue showing you the next step. Okay, so you can't see because I've sewn it in white, but I've secured that in place. Okay, so then we need to get the D-rings. Right, so I'm just going to come to the end of my strap, and from the inside going out, I'm going to thread that through that D-ring. And then I'm going to come to my strap. So I'm going inside out of the D-ring. I'm going to get the end. Just going to check you can see this. Yes, you can. I'm going to, once I've gone through my D-ring, making sure I'm not twisting the strap, I'm going to thread through there. And then through there. So up and through the strap. There we go. So now I've created the adjustable width strap. And then I just need to come over to this final D-ring and go, in fact, I want to go out from the outside in, and I'm just going to secure that. I might just take a little bit off the length, so I'm finding this bag's quite long on me, so you might want to adjust the length of your strap. There you go. So I'm just going to sew that in place there, like I did with the other side. Literally, I'm just going backwards and forwards. And then okay, so there we go. You can see we have a fully adjustable bag strap, and we can there you go, you can adjust the length of your strap, and you've got a really gorgeous little bag. Okay, so I just thought I'd stand up to model the finished bag. I'm really pleased with this. How cute is it? So I've got the bag crossbody, and it's going to be great for shopping. I love having my phone and my purse and everything to hand just there. Absolutely love the hens. I think it's my favourite part. And obviously we have got the strap adjustable, so if I wanted to make it a bit shorter and have it as a shoulder bag, I can do. But there we go, an adjustable lined magnetic clasp tote bag. So that is the Fat Quarter project for January. Hope you enjoy making it. Any problems or any questions, please just give me a shout. See you next week. Bye.